day! I am delighted that you can join me for tea today. My name is Louise and I'm going to be serving some tea and telling you about the different teas through the centuries along with some guests. So to start with, how do you like your tea? I like mine strong with a little dash of milk. So we are in the still house at historic Town, and I'm going to have some guests come through different time periods, and we're going to talk about tea and the different social history and the importance of it and their perspective on it. Of course, tea drinking is an ancient tradition in the Orient, dating back thousands of years in China. The cultivation and curing of the shrub Camellia sinensis as a medicinal and a beverage was a closely guarded secret. By the mid-17th century, Portuguese, Dutch and Arab traders began importing tea to Europe. The marriage of Catherine de Braganza to Charles II introduced tea to the English. The aristocracy loved it, and it became very exclusive. You see, the fine porcelain teaware, furniture and sugar were imported luxury items. The equipage was more expensive than most could afford. The China trade expanded, and so did tea drinking among all social classes. By the mid-18th century, tea replaced ale as the favoured morning beverage. Thomas Twining opened the very first tea room in 1706 in the Strand, London, England, and soon many more started popping up. The traditional coffee houses were the domain of men, while the tea rooms catered to the female clientele. I also heard that by the 1860s, many of the finer hotels opened tea rooms so women could go out and meet friends without a chaperone. The food became even more lavish, with savouries, pastries, scones and sweets. It took some time for the tea drinking to take off in America though. The Dutch introduced the beverage, but it had, shall we say, a lukewarm reception. The British gained control of North America and tea became a staple by the mid-18th century. Of course, the American Revolution had a profound effect on drinking tea. The boycott of British imported goods, particularly East India Company tea, came to a head with the Boston Tea Party, December the 16th, 1773. Americans expressed their outrage and women proclaimed their patriotism by substituting other herbs and coffee as their beverage of choice. I do have a poem, A Lady's Adieu to Her Tea Table, and this was published in the Virginia Gazette on January the 20th, 1774, shortly after the event in Boston. Farewell the tea board with your gaudy attire, ye cups and ye saucers that I did admire. To my cream pot and tongs I now bid adieu. That pleasure's all fled that I once found in you. No more shall my teapot so generous be in filling the cups with this pernicious tea. For I'll fill it with water and drink out the same before I lose liberty, that dearest name.
Good afternoon, Louise. May I join you?
Oh, good afternoon, Joanna. Yes, do take a seat.
I brought my own cup.
Lovely.
But just tea?
Of course, just tea. We just drink tea. Yes.
Oh, I forgot. I'll be right back. I totally forgot. Tea was tea in your time, but now we've added some extras here. In fact,
would you care for some milk?
No, thank you. No. Queen Victoria and her Lady Bedford started this tradition. In fact, Lady Bedford found that waiting until 8 o'clock in the evening for dinner was just too much. It was exhausting and she became faint. So she asked to have some food brought up, some buttered bread. Would you like some?
Oh, yes, please.
Bit of cake?
Oh, never say no to cake.
Okay, we have a very special cake here. And who would have thought, if one was hungry, ask the kitchen for some food?
Right. What time do they serve dinner in the 19th
Well, this was
century?
about in the 1840s, and not until 8 or 9 o'clock in the evening.
Gosh, but that's bedtime.
Well, for some, I suppose.
Strange fashions in the 19th century.
Hmm,
Is the tea good?
delicious, very good.
You do have sugar if you like some sugar.
No, I take mine black, thank you. But this became all the rage among the aristocracy when Lady Bedford went back to London. She started asking for just some bread and butter, some small cakes, and right away it took off. It became so popular that everybody started to have a little afternoon repast with their tea. Afternoon tea became popular in America as well. In Philadelphia, a merchant named John Wanamaker opened a department store that included a tea room in 1877. Well-behaved ladies wore hats and gloves, and they ate dainty watercress sandwiches and sipped tea and had cake. Oh, it was just marvelous.
So I have heard of a place called Harrod's in London.
Another
England.
department store.
Another department store. And it was a gentleman called Charles Harrod, and he started as a tea merchant and a grocer in the 1830s. Opened just before the coronation of George V in 1911.
Hi there.
Hello, Pam. How are you?
Good, how are you?
We're very well. Would you like some tea?
I would love some tea.
Okay. What is this?
Well, this is a mug
A
for
mug?
tea.
Slightly different to my refined little cup.
Yours doesn't even have a handle on it.
Well, no, we don't. We didn't have handles in the 18th century. But yours does.
Mine does have, but I'm from the mid-19th century.
Interesting how things have evolved. So, tea?
Of course.
Okay, put it down on the table. Would you care for some milk?
Sure. You don't have cream?
Oh gosh, no cream in my tea, just milk. Would you care for a top up?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Well, how can we accommodate you, because we don't have a whole lot of room here?
Of course, and I have a lot of snacks. to bring.
Snacks?
Snacks?
Yes, a lot of food that we can bring on this table.
Ooh, more food.
Well, how will we do this?
We might have to switch things up.
Gosh, that's a lot of food.
That's a light afternoon tea?
Yes, this is what tea was like in the late 19th and early 20th century. There was a wide variety of sweets and savories that you could enjoy with your tea.
I can see. Where do we begin?
Well, I think I might start with a savoury.
May I serve you?
Yes, please do.
Now, tea rooms become popular in the early 20th century as well, so people can gather together and enjoy tea. The tea rooms became fashionable and popped up throughout the Northeast in the early 20th century as Americans took to roads and automobiles. Some rural communities even set up tea rooms in old barns. Respectable single women were still expected to be escorted when they entered restaurants or other businesses. Tea rooms were usually run and staffed by women, so it became an acceptable way for women to gather unchaperoned. Tea provided a break for working women in the afternoon and also provided a venue for women to discuss current events and garner support for causes like temperance and the right to vote. The tea room was commonplace by the time Prohibition began in 1920. Tea dances reached their height of popularity. Patrons paid a small entrance fee, about 30 cents, to enjoy tea, sandwiches, and cakes while they danced to big band music. World War II brought about many social changes, particularly when rationing began. The scarcity of gasoline and ingredients to create the tea time delicacies caused many tea rooms to scale back. It didn't take much longer for afternoon tea to fade from favor. Now, on the bright side, the 20th century did see two important innovations in tea. And the first one is the tea bag. And this was created in 1904 by New York merchant William Sullivan. And
What is this?
well, this is a way that what he did was he put tea in these individual silk bags, and they were able to distribute them.
This has become popular?
Yes, this is the primary way that a lot of Americans drink tea now, but you still can get loose leaf tea.
Lipton. I've heard of that Lipton fella.
You have?
Thomas Lipton. Another tea merchant.
But I don't know whether I want this tea. I think I prefer the loose tea in my tea caddy than this.
Would you tear the bag apart, put the tea in? What would you do?
You just put the tea bag right into your cup or into a teapot. Now on the flip side, something else that becomes popular in the 20th century is iced tea.
Yeah, that's not something that I would want to drink. Cold tea, I like mine piping hot.
That's understandable. In the United States, iced tea does become quite popular. So Richard Bletchenden, an English tea dealer, put ice cubes into glasses of tea at the St. Louis World's Fair. The weather was extremely hot and no one was buying cups of tea, so iced tea was a hit.
People are often confused by the term high tea, particularly in America. Can you shed some light on that for us?
Well, high tea is more of a robust meal that you would have around about 5 to 6 o'clock in the evening. So the workers would come home from the factories or the coal industry or even shop merchants. They'd come home and they would have a meal consisting of maybe stew or soups, meat pies, leftovers. So it was more robust tea. It was like what you would call a supper, which is very different to what we have here, which is your afternoon tea, which was served to more of the middling class, the landed gentry, aristocracy, afternoon tea to keep them going until dinner time at 8 o'clock.
I see.
And it's much more dainty, the savouries and the sweets you have here.
Now I love scones.
How would you like to have one, Pam?
Yes, I love one.
I like scones too, actually. Would I have one too? Oh, shall I help here?
Certainly.
You know, where I'm from, in England, in the West Country, we have the scones. We have cream teas that a scone is part of, and or depending on which county that you come from, so whether it's Cornwall or Devon or Dorset, the cream tea is, you slice the scone and it always has to be nice and warm, and you spread it with strawberry jam and then a big dollop of clotted cream on top, and it's really yummy. But in some counties it's the clotted cream first and then the dollop of strawberry jam. And of course it's always served with a pot of tea, and you have lashings of tea, and it just washes it all down really nicely, and it's lovely.
Oh, it
That's
does.
called a cream tea, and you find it in southwest of England. I do miss it. It's very nice.
I can see why.
Yes.
Yeah, it's really interesting how tea is different throughout England and really around the world as well.
Yeah. It's all served different ways. Like you say, you have iced tea over here, which I do find a little bit odd. I like my tea piping hot and with milk, whereas you like your hot tea without milk.
No milk for me.
And ice in the summer. So however have your tea, whether it's with milk or without, hot or cold, always make time for tea, because there's nothing like a good cup of tea just to calm you down and enjoy. It's the best beverage in the world.
Particularly with friends.
Absolutely. And with that, cheers.
Cheers.